This is like Disneyland after the apocalypse. Hello, Wonderhussy here, standing at the side of ever glamorous and ever beautiful Interstate 15, which is the main highway that runs from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. And if you've ever driven from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, you know you've reached the Nevada state line when you get to a place called Primm, Nevada. That's right, I'm at another one of these glamorous little border towns that you find all around the edges of the state of Nevada. Anywhere there's an interstate or a major highway coming into Nevada from a neighboring state that doesn't have legalized gambling, you'll generally find one of these little towns that, well, for the most part, they exist solely to lure people into these little border town casinos. And this town that we're in today is called Primm, P-R-I-M-M, and well, it's only like 45 minutes outside Las Vegas. So I've never understood why anybody who was driving to Vegas would get all this way, only 45 more minutes to go, and then decide to stop here and gamble. I mean, not to disparage Primm, I'm sure there's plenty of interesting things here, and we're about to find out for ourselves. But it just seems like to me, if I'm in the car and I'm only 45 more minutes to go, well, I'd just keep going till I got to the real Vegas, and not stop here in this weird Mickey Mouse ghost town Vegas. But apparently people do stop here for whatever reason, and so I decided today would be a good day to come down to Primm and poke around for myself and see if it's maybe even more interesting than Las Vegas itself. Okay, the first place I decided to check out is Whiskey Pete's. That's right, Whiskey Pete's. It's a big casino right on the north side of I-15. And well, it looks like it has kind of a miners theme. Historically, there was a lot of mining activity in this area. That's pretty much who settled this whole area, was miners. I mean, it's a godforsaken desert. Who else would be out here but miners? But this Whiskey Pete's Casino is actually named after a moonshiner. There actually was a historical figure named Whiskey Pete. I did some research, and oh my God, he sounded like a real character. Back in the day, before this was Interstate 15, I think it was called Highway 91, and it was, even back then, the only way to get from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, or the only way to cross the barren wasteland of the Mojave Desert. And back then, well, obviously there were no casinos out here, and there were no roller coasters, and there was no outlet mall. There was none of that. There was just a little gas station right here where we're standing-ish, and it was run by this guy named, well, I guess his name was Pete McIntyre. But like I said, he was also a bootlegger or a moonshiner, and so I guess he sold moonshine whiskey out of his gas station. And that's why he got the nickname Whiskey Pete. And I can't imagine what good old Whiskey Pete would have thought of all this rigmarole standing at the side of where his humble little service station once squatted in the merciless desert sun. And according to my research, Whiskey Pete was actually a very unpleasant person. It was said that, well, several people complained that when they stopped here to get gas, he would throw things at them or yell at them, or one lady, I guess, just needed to get some water to top off her radiator, and he got really mad that she wasn't going to buy anything, so he screamed at her and kicked her out and made her go down the road to the next service station with an overheating radiator. Yeah, he was that kind of guy. I guess he had a reputation, even in Vegas, for being kind of a jerk. But the funny thing about Whiskey Pete is, when he died, he wanted to be buried with one of his bottles of moonshine whiskey standing up in the desert facing the highway. I had some quote like he wanted to be able to curse them sons of bitches, something like that. He was that kind of guy. So I guess his friends did honor his request. When he died, they did bury Whiskey Pete standing upright, holding a bottle of his whiskey somewhere on this property. And no one knew exactly where his grave was because, well, I guess people kept coming and stealing the grave marker. And so fast forward from, oh gosh, I can't remember what year he died, sometime in the 30s or 40s. Well, fast forward to 1977, when the good folks behind Whiskey Pete's Casino were building the casino. Actually, it was when they were building this bridge. There's a bridge that connects this side of Primm to the side, on the other side of I-15. It's a monorail bridge. Well, when they were building the monorail bridge, I guess the excavation equipment accidentally dug up Whiskey Pete's coffin, and he was buried standing upright. Supposedly they did not find the bottle of moonshine with him, though, which I have my doubts about. I'll bet you anything the guys that dug him up did find that whiskey. They just kept it for themselves and didn't want to tell anyone. Well, supposedly the people who run this casino did rebury the remains of Whiskey Pete somewhere on the grounds of the resort, but I don't think it's a marked grave. So I don't think I'll be able to find it. But as fascinating and interesting as it would be to find Whiskey Pete's new grave, that's actually not why I'm going here into Whiskey Pete's casino. I'm actually going in here because, well, it's supposedly home to Bonnie and Clyde's death car. Okay, if you've driven on this highway in the last 20 years, you've probably seen the big signs for Bonnie and Clyde's actual death car. Well, I guess it was originally over here at Whiskey Pete's, and then for a while they moved it across the highway to one of the other casinos. But now, according to the latest research I was able to do, it's back here at Whiskey Pete's. So let's go inside and see if we can find for ourselves. It's supposed to be the actual car Bonnie and Clyde were shot to death in. And it's supposed to be right here in this casino. Oh man, what a chip. I drove all the way out here to check out Bonnie and Clyde's death car, and it's on loan to some car museum in Simi Valley. But it was still kind of interesting to go in there because, oh my gosh, believe it or not, I lived in Vegas for 21 years and drove by this place I don't know how many times, and that was the first time I ever went in. And it was kind of cool. Well, they had a history display on the wall, like the history of Las Vegas, talking about when gambling was legalized and when the mob came in and the Rat Pack. And they had a little thing there all about Pete McIntyre, Whiskey Pete. So apparently my research was accurate. And they even had a mannequin of Whiskey Pete standing in the middle of the casino with a little jug of moonshine next to him. And they even had a whole big area roped off for all this Bonnie and Clyde memorabilia. But unfortunately, well, there was no death car. Struck out. But that's okay because I do have one other, well, interesting but kind of grisly story to tell you about Whiskey Pete's Casino. And for this story, we're going to have to go all the way back in time to 1987, I think. So 10 years after it opened, there was a terrible child abduction and murder here at Whiskey Pete's. And it's kind of a bummer of a story, so fast forward if you want. I'll just do the Reader's Digest version. But really, this poor kid that was killed deserves attention because it's a cold case. They never solved it. And, well, it seems like he's almost forgotten about. His name was Alexander Harris. You can look him up. He was an adorable little blonde 7-8-year-old kid with glasses. Super cute. Well, he was here at the friggin' Whiskey Pete's Casino with his family. I guess they were on their way from Vegas back to their home in Mountain View, California. Stopped off here to gamble or whatever, and little Alexander went to play in the arcade, and unfortunately some dude lured him out of the arcade, and, well, he went missing. And so they searched all over the grounds for him, and gosh, I think it might have even been like a month later, they found his body under, well, I guess there's like trailers parked behind the casino back here somewhere for like, I mean, in the story I read online, it was like for executive use. I'm not sure why there were executive trailers behind a casino, but anyway, they found his body fully clothed under a trailer, but they were never able to figure out who did it to him. Like, there were some eyewitness accounts of people saw a man leading him out of the arcade, but they were, well, it's a really long, complicated story. They were never able to identify the person who kidnapped and murdered him, and it's still a cold case to this day, 30 years later. It's terrible. That poor kid's parents, I can't imagine how they're suffering, and, well, I know finding out who did it isn't going to bring their kid back, but, well, at least it might be some closure for them. And I don't know what my talking about it on my YouTube channel is going to do, but I don't know, I just figure the more people talk about it and the more it's mentioned and not forgotten, you know, maybe there is somebody still out there who knows something about what happened to that poor little kid, and, well, maybe justice can still be achieved. Anyway, tragically, speaking of child abduction and murder, there was another one right on the other side of the highway at one of the other hotels, oh gosh, about 15 years ago. That's right. Right here at this Primm Valley Resort and Casino, this little girl named Charisse Iverson, I think she was only 5 years old. Well, I think she was with her dad and he was gambling at 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know who has to stop and gamble in Primm at 1 o'clock in the morning when they have a 5-year-old kid with them, but hey, that's what he did. He left her in the arcade to sort of amuse herself. And oh God, it's just a horrible story. These two 18, 19-year-old kids started fooling around, having like paper airplane wars with her, and one of the kids lured her into the bathroom and molested her and murdered her. It was just terrible. So that happened here. The other little kid was kidnapped right on the other side of the highway. I don't know why anybody with kids would ever stop in this weird casino town, but hey, if you're thinking of stopping here for your next family vacation, maybe reconsider. And well, I was gonna say keep on going till you get to Vegas, but why would you be going to Vegas in the first place? Anyway, believe it or not, I didn't just come here to talk about child murders in Primm. I came here to see if there was anything interesting to check out. And well, unfortunately, I think probably partially because of COVID, things look kind of shut down around here. I mean, there were people gambling in Whiskey Pete's and staying there, and there's obviously people checking in here and staying here. But there's one more casino in the border town of Primm that's in even worse shape than this Primm Valley Resort or Whiskey Pete's. And that is Buffalo Bill's. This place is basically just shut down and abandoned. That's right, an abandoned casino. Well, it's not technically abandoned. I'm sure there's a ton of security on site, but yeah, man, they shut this whole place down at the start of the pandemic in, I think, March or April 2019, and it never reopened. I mean, look at that. That's a pretty big hotel. It's got to be at least a few hundred rooms. Not to mention this roller coaster winding around the grounds. At one time, you could have ridden that. But not anymore. This place is deader than a doornail. It's so creepy to hear those birds, you know? I guess when you would come here a few years ago, you'd hear laughing and shouting and cheering and screaming from people riding that roller coaster. But now, it's just the ravens and the sound of all them big rigs passing on the interstate. Well, it looks like they still kept the sprinklers on because the grass is still green. Obviously a very environmentally forward place for the middle of the desert. Okay, look, here's the valet. This is where you would have pulled up back in the day. Look, here's the main entrance to the casino. Oh my gosh. Well, the lights are still on inside. Why? You know, you can see that one slot machine maybe? Can you see that? There's still slot machines on in there. I'll never understand why these places do that. Like, don't you want to save on your power bill? Like, shut the machines off already. Casino temporarily closed. All cash has been removed from the premises. All liquor product has been removed from the premises. All food product has been removed from the premises. I guess they put that up to discourage vandals, you know, or homeless people trying to get in there and squat and eat all the food and drink all the booze, steal all the money out of the cage. This buffalo just kind of looks sad and tired. Kind of like how I imagine this casino looks on the inside too. I mean, this buffalo looks like he was ready for this casino to shut down like years ago. Look at this. It's an old graveyard and an old creepy mannequin. Oh, I guess that's for the benefit of people who are riding the roller coaster maybe, like so you can see stuff off to the side while you're riding. I don't know. And then it looks like there was some kind of, well, it looks like almost like a moat. I mean, doesn't this look like it was some kind of water feature at some time? And now it's just kind of full of trash. And then it goes back to the sort of sluice gate. So maybe it was a moat, and that sluice gate was what kept all the trash from getting into the pump house or whatever, where they recycled the water. Gosh, I don't know. I never came to this place when it was operational either. Matter of fact, I've never been inside there. And it looks like I won't be going in today. Oh yeah, look. You can see, it looks like there was a water ride here too, because look, there's like a slide at the end. Maybe there was. It was like one of those log rides that you do. But then, well, I don't know where it ended. This is like Disneyland after the apocalypse. I love it. Okay, well, I still can't believe no security has come to run me off, but let's just keep poking around until that happens. I'm sure it will. Look at this. This is just so far out, man. Like a water ride and a roller coaster in this abandoned casino right by the side of an interstate highway. Only in America. Or I guess I should say, only in Nevada. Okay, yeah, that's definitely what that is. That was a water ride, because you can see up close here. It's kind of on rails. Whatever cart you were in was on rails. And then it dumped you into that weird moat thing. Oh my gosh, yeah, look at that. That's like a whole, you can see there's like a fake little mill house up there. Like that fake rock wall. That was all part of the amusement rides. Oh, look, here you can see where the roller coaster came out of that tunnel there. Yikers. I mean, there's nobody here, and I could very easily climb over this fence and go in there and poke around, but I don't know. I don't want to invite trouble. And there's a few other interesting things in this weird little town I want to check out before I get arrested. I feel like every time I drove by this place, it kind of looked like it was on its last legs. But I think I read online that they were actually kind of trying to market themselves to the Hispanic market from like Riverside County, Southern California. So they would have like bands play here that were like big in the Hispanic market. And I guess they had some kind of famous Mexican restaurant here too. So, gosh, I don't know if they had the roller coaster going then or what, but oh, there is a car back here. I wonder if that's security. Oh, yikes. Okay, let's get out of here. One last pan over this eerily deserted casino before we leave. Okay, so that was Buffalo Bills. At least no kids were abducted and or murdered there as far as my research indicated. So they have that going for them, even though they are closed. But aside from these 3 creepy, depressing casinos, surely there's more to the settlement of Primm. I mean, I can't figure out if this is actually a town or just a glorified rest area. I mean, yeah, there's overpriced gas, and there's a bunch of fast food, and then there's an outlet mall up here that we'll go check out. But, like, are there people actually living here in Primm? It's about 45 minutes from Vegas, which I guess isn't that bad of a commute. If you had a job out here, you could live in Vegas and drive to work, I guess. But I can't imagine that the jobs out here pay that much. And certainly not enough to make that drive worth it twice a day. Maybe there's some kind of employee shuttle or something like that. Or maybe there's some kind of residential area in Primm. Let's get back in the car and drive around and take a look at the back streets. Oh, wow, yeah, look. There's like apartments back here. I feel like I saw this when I was looking on Google Maps and I couldn't believe that anybody actually lived out here, but look, there's an actual apartment complex right behind that Primm Valley Resorts Hotel. And it's a pretty big apartment complex too. What a weird place to live. I mean, talk about living out in the middle of nowhere. There's gotta be at least a few hundred people living there. And then here's the weirdest thing, look. Just keep going down the road and it dead ends in the desert. The apartment complex literally dead ends at open desert. Okay, wow, that is bizarre. I can't imagine what it would be like living, well, first of all, right off the side of I-15 in the shadow of 2 creepy casinos and 1 abandoned one. I mean, I guess in its defense, it's probably really peaceful and quiet out here. You know, once you're away from the interstate, you don't hear that traffic. You can walk to work, assuming you work in one of these resorts. Oh, look. Desert Oasis at Primm. That's the name of the complex. Oh, wow, look. And what's really interesting about this apartment complex is there's a little market, like a mini market. I guess for the people who live here so they can go buy, like, beer and milk and bread without going all the way to Vegas. Talk about a food desert. I mean, if you lived out here, it really would be a hike to get, well, I doubt there's any fresh vegetables in that market. Okay, so apart from the 2 creepy casinos, 1 abandoned casino, weird apartment complex, and strange mini mart, well, there's a couple other noteworthy things about Primm, like this giant outlet mall. Look at this thing. It's covered in all kinds of weird murals. Super cool, actually, colorful murals. But I'm not sure there's actually anything inside. or should I say anyone inside. It too looks pretty deserted, but let's go in and take a look around. Oh my word. It's the attack of the 50-foot. Well, you know what. Seriously though, if you have a foot fetish, this is where you want to be. I mean, this place is surreal. It's like almost totally deserted. There's a few people walking around. There's some flamingos standing in a drained pool. And then there's all this weird graffiti murals, artwork, like kind of, well, that stuff looks kind of post-apocalyptic to me. I mean, look, isn't this bird picking up a cigarette butt? Yikes. This really is like one of those dead mall YouTube channels. I mean, these stores look like they're almost all without exception closed. I haven't seen a single store open. And then they just kind of repurposed it into this weird art museum, I guess you'd call it. Oh wow, look, this was the food court. But it's totally deserted now. You know what I mean? Like, this place here doesn't look like they just closed it down for the day. This looks like it's been closed for a minute. I feel stupid even wearing a mask because there's hardly anybody in here, but, well, I already have enough reasons to get kicked out. I'm not going to give them one more. Let's see if there's anything else in here. I'll be honest, I think this mall would actually be awesome to come to on mushrooms. Just walk around and look at all this weird art. You know, you could even make a staycation out of it. You could get a room over at, well, I'd probably get a room at Whiskey Pete's just because I'm weird like that. And then, you know, you could have dinner at one of these fast food places or go to the friggin' cafe in the casino, come over here, walk around the weird abandoned mall. You could have yourself a real good time. Oh, okay, I see. This connects to the casino. That Primm Valley Casino, I guess, was built to connect onto this outlet mall. So if you wanted to, you could take this escalator up and go right on in there and gamble. So I suppose it actually makes way more sense if I was gonna do my mushroom staycation here to get a room here, because then I could just walk over here and woo! Oh, hold everything, Michael Kors. Still holding down the fort. Oh, Levi's still open. Good old Polo Ralph Lauren. Bath and Body Works. Tommy Hilfiger. Okay, wow. I guess what I take from all of this is Michael Kors, Tommy Hilfiger, Bath and Body Works, and Levi's are like the cockroaches of the retail world. They can even survive the apocalypse. Okay, wow. That was 1,000 times weirder and more interesting than I thought it was going to be. That was just weird. I mean, all joking aside, how do they afford to keep the power on in this place if they only have 5, 6 tenants? I mean, I guess the casino is kind of keeping it alive, like an artificial or external heart or something like that. Oh my God, I'm very curious to see what the future of this place ends up being. But, believe it or not, as if the 2 creepy casinos, 1 abandoned casino, weird apartment complex, and strange post-apocalyptic semi-abandoned mall weren't weird enough, none of those is the weirdest thing in Primm. The weirdest thing in Primm is right over here, and I'm about to show you. Okay, the number 1 weirdest thing in all of fabulous Primm, Nevada is this building right here. That's right, the Lotto store. Okay, this is a building, a store that sells nothing but lottery tickets in the California state lottery, because we're right on the state line. Well, actually, we must literally be right on the state line, because that's why they built that building right where it is. I mean, think about it. Casinos, gambling, is legal in Nevada, but a lot of people don't realize Nevada doesn't have a state lottery. There's no state lottery in Nevada, but there is a state lottery in California. And that's why they built this lottery store right here, literally on the other side of the state line, which gosh, I must be straddling it right now. I got 1 foot in California, 1 foot in Nevada. Not sure which is worse off. Anyway, they built this lottery store as close as they could to Nevada for the same reason that they build all these casinos as close as they can to California. Now, if you remember, at the beginning of this video, I was talking about all these weird Nevada border towns and how they all have casinos because they want to lure in gamblers from all these neighboring states that don't have legalized gambling. Well, here in Nevada, they don't have a lottery. And as if there weren't enough opportunities to gamble as it already was in Nevada, well, guess what? People want to play the lottery too, by golly. So they built this lottery store as close as they could to the metropolis of Las Vegas. Las Vegas has a population of around 2 million people. And I don't know how many of them are degenerate gamblers, but I'd say probably at least 1.9 million. And of all of those 1.9 million, probably at least 1.75 million want to play the lottery. And well, gosh, I guess back in the day, they used to have to go all the way to Nipton, California, to the little store there to buy lottery tickets. Or a lot of people will go to Shoshone, California, just outside Death Valley. Basically, they'll go anywhere they can just over the state line to buy lottery tickets. And right now, there happens to be I think the Powerball or something is at like $400 million. And that's why there's this crazy, huge line around the building. Okay, I was talking to the guy at the general store in Nipton, which is a little tiny desert town about 20, 30 miles from here that has a tiny little general store where people used to have to go buy their lottery tickets. And he said people still do go all the way out there to buy tickets because the line here can be 4 hours long. People stand in line for 4 hours just to buy a lottery ticket. I'll zoom in. You can see there's a line of people wrapped all the way around the building and it goes way out into the open desert out back. It's just mind-blowing. I actually went in that store once. I was on a photo shoot or something with a photographer who he either wanted to buy a lottery ticket or he had a ticket he wanted to cash in. I can't remember. So I went in there with him and literally the only thing they sell in that entire store is lottery tickets. I think there's a soda machine. Like you can see those Pepsi machines out front and I bet they make a ton of money because, well, you're stuck in line for 4 hours. You're probably going to want to buy a drink. But there's nothing else in that store except lottery tickets. And plenty of people who are willing to wait 4 hours to get in there and get themselves one. And you can see the traffic isn't easing up. There's all kinds of cars pulling in even while I'm making this video. It's bizarre. Matter of fact, when I saw this parking lot over here by the mall, I thought, oh, well, this mall must still be open and thriving. Ha! As we saw, that mall was most certainly not thriving and it was barely open. So all these cars here are parked here because they're trying to go buy lottery tickets. See you in about 4 hours. Okay, wow. I certainly hope you enjoyed this weird tour of weird Primm, Nevada, at least half as much as I did. This place was 1,000 times more interesting than I thought it was going to be. And dare I say, I found it 1,000 times more interesting than Las Vegas. So next time you're driving to Vegas along good old I-15 and you get close to Vegas, but you're not quite there yet and you think it might be nice to get out and stretch your legs and maybe get a bite to eat and maybe throw a few dollars on the craps table, well, why not get off here in fabulous Primm and spend your money here where they really need it. Just don't bring any little kids with you, and if you do, don't leave them in the arcade while you're gambling.